just not gonna be good. So it's not like a pain. Pain is.
Yeah.
Pain.
Yeah.
So really beautiful evergreen trees in my yard.
Yeah.
Check. We've got new growth, so I think we're gonna be okay.
I just.
There are things you can control and things you can't.
Yeah, I know.
This is 68 tags. This car expires. You do tags. That's what I've been doing today. Just running around trying to find everything. I know. See.
Hi, how are you?
Good. The article.
I'm not prepared to say it. Recording.
Okay. On me, I'm sorry.
I should have checked with you.
Well, it's pretty pleasant. It's not as bad.
Check on.
Wichita's finest just aren't. Good, how are you guys doing?
And you're still around?
Driving, I looked back, I was at a stop back up.
He's pretty full time, pretty much still.
I bet he pulled, turned out to turn left.
I
I think he gets out of it. You're on your way to the meeting. Hurry up, I'm gonna keep you up. Well, you guys. Sister's on the, sister's a cop too. So she was patrolling around somewhere, so she was on speaker talking to me. Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, this is down here, it's just, yeah, it was.
Channel. Here. Yeah. Morning.
Morning. Hey, Ken. Actually, I walked in. That's that thing I've done all morning. That's nice, that's a nice morning. It's like 5 minutes, but I don't really follow the sidewalk. I walk as the crow flies.
Yeah, it is 10. Yeah, your clock back there is wrong, but it is 10.
Get right up.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We'll call the May 1st Design Council meeting to order. First item on our agenda today is the approval of the minutes from the April 3rd meeting. I would move to approve minutes.
Seconded.
Motion by Jeff, second by Jesse. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Second item on the agenda today is the facility update by Mr. Bill Perkins. Morning, Bill.
So this is a little bit of an update, let you know where we're at since the last time we came and spoke to you about this project. Again, there's three general elements to the project. One thing I did want to mention up front is our art consultant is now has subcontracts with all three artists. So all three art pieces are going to move forward as far as we know at this time. So we did make that additional step. I mentioned the 2 and 3. So 2 was the cloud benches, basically along a proposed bike path out in front of our admin lab building. I guess I should say that. So this is the new water plant site. North is at kind of an angle. So 21st Street is running up here at an angle. We're parallel with Zoo Boulevard. So Zoo Boulevard's down here and then Zoo's down off the bottom of the screen. So there is a proposed bike path eventually to curve around and go up along Hoover. And we had, I refer to them as the cloud benches out in front along that bike path. Those are moving forward. And they'll end up going in before the bike path, but we are coordinating those two projects together. The third was the large water drop, is what I refer to it as. And it's going to be right out just in front of the admin lab building. Again, both of those pieces kind of had some thematic things that we heard from the design council. You wanted them to come back when they were a little more progressed on those themes, so we could get your input on that. And they've heard that loud and clear. There really wasn't a whole lot of other issues along with those two, and they're progressing. The location 1, if you remember, was the large blue spiral. I've got some pictures I'll show you here in a second. But initial proposal was down here in this location, and it did have a lighting element that was run off of solar. What we heard from design council is that you were kind of okay with that, but you would rather us look at putting it up closer to the admin lab building up in the same area. Several things we got when we went back to our art consultant and to our project steering committee. Art consultant had some concerns and the artist had some concerns about all those elements being in one area together. But we went ahead and we also sent out to our project steering committee. Didn't hear back from everybody, but everybody that we did hear back wanted to keep it down near this intersection at Windmill and Zoo Boulevard. We did also, there was at one point in there was a question about with the traffic signals. We checked with both city and county, traffic signalization wasn't an issue. So we're still kind of focused on that area down at that south end at this time. Again, we're coming back to you. If you feel really strongly, we'll keep going back and talking to people if there's certain reasons. But we did go back to the steering committee and to our consultant and artist on that. And that's the direction we got from everybody in those groups. The other element with the solar, down here at this location, we have a bit of a contractual issue. So the only place at a reasonable cost to get power would be from on the plant site. The issue is we won't have control of that plant site until about the end of 2024. And everything's set up to have this art done ahead of that. We're going to work with the artist, and the artist is actually out of the country right at the moment. But we're going to work with the artist, see if we can work on some timing arrangements. But again, to come in and put in the art and then come back to do the electrical, there's costs involved. But to get the electrical from on site, we run into some contractual issues with the design build team, and I'm not sure those are going to be able to be overcome either. So we may end up still with solar, but we are still looking at the possibility of power, hardwired power to that element. That's really an update. The other thing that the design council asked for was some pictures, some renderings of that. with background. They're not real great renderings. I'm hoping they show what you're wanting to show. We don't show a whole lot of the terrain, like with the railroad tracks and with the levees for the big ditch, because they're not in that, they're not in the model. Okay, so Wichita Water Partners helped us with the background, and then we had the art consultant work with the artist to get the element put on top of that rendering. Like I say, Wichita Water Partners, of course, off-site, they don't have that terrain model. So it doesn't really show the railroad tracks or the levees. But they did put together this view kind of looking from the intersection towards the plant, kind of looking generally northeasterly. And then a view kind of up in the air, probably about 30 feet up in the air, looking southeasterly. They pulled it up in the air to try to give the illusion of levees in the background, but because if they did it down at ground level, it'd just be flat in their rendering. Not sure if that helps your envision on it, but that was the two renderings that we were able to put together. They tried a couple other views, but really these two were about the best that came out of that exercise. And if I can answer any other questions, or if we missed the direction any, please let me know. Happy to adjust.
One quick question, then we'll turn it over to design council members. I was thinking when we sent it back, and our issue, I think, my recall, was the scale. Either wasn't large enough at this location and need to get bigger, or it needed to be moved up by the building for the scale. Is that everybody, am I close on that?
So if I could, one issue there.
Talk to them about scale at the present location.
So the steering committee had the same comment about scale. She did agree to make it taller. And the only question was going to be if we made it taller using the pedestal or if we made the actual metal part taller.
45 foot, right?
It was 36 feet, and we were talking about getting it up to where it was at least over 40.
And 36 feet, is that the piece itself, or is that with?
I believe that was with the pedestal.
Then I'm going to turn it over to design council members. Discussion or questions?
So I was gone last time you were here, so I'm playing catch up a little bit. You had a conversation about this specific piece last time, correct?
Yeah.
What is this representative of? What's the
Okay, so I did.
behind it? I know I'm asking you to
I don't
express some
think I
things a
have-
little out of your wheelhouse.
I don't think I have the whole package with me, but Jillian Holst is the artist's name. Her part of her description was the two water sources. We have two water sources. We have Cheney and we have Equus beds, and the way that they flow together, and the way that we change those water sources to make them clean. And so this was a large piece of steel that had like two main shades of blue, but it was lit to where it would have like a variable speed ramping of blue shades going up and down along that steel. Not sure I can really explain it much more.
That's good. Thank you.
The scale was about how people would experience it, like whether you have the ability to walk up to it, and now this it feels monumental because you're small, you're standing next to it, and then the visibility from the other side of the train tracks and the gate, all the things. And I think that's why the scale was a thing. Okay.
From both Zoo Boulevard to the trains and Big Ditch. It is inside the fence. So I remember conversations about, can we walk up to it? The answer is no. Inside of security.
The fence black or silver?
I'm sorry.
What color is the fence?
It's black coated, like vinyl coated.
How does that relate to the zoo art that iron, the wrought iron. I think it'll be in the way of it. I think they'll,
Oh,
it'll impact the view of it,
that fence ends right here.
right?
Ends right, just put, well, basically, they're on the.
There's
side
a-
of the big ditch.
There's an art piece
Right.
on it right at the end, I think it's close to the end.
The rest of the gorillas right there at the end.
So when you're driving westbound or whatever, it'll be it'll be impacting the view, I think.
I see what you're saying.
So I don't know if you can move the gorillas or to make it impactful, you got to be able to see it, and that the gorillas are blocking it. It's kind of the same as railroad tracks. You got to lift it up enough to not have it down in the hole on the other side. And you got to block it, gorillas or whatever. It's one thing to have the wrought iron blocking it. You can see through it, but the gorillas, you can't.
Recite the gorillas as needed. Diane and Janet, that whole like collection of animals on the fence line are in need of some restoration. So we'll likely, as funding permits, need to remove them and recite them so they're not in competition as needed.
I think lifting it up as high as you can seems appropriate, but it still feels a little bit short. I mean, if the base and the art is 36 feet, it seems for that space kind of small. I think I said this last time, like Keeper of the Plains, I looked it up again, it's 44 foot tall on a 30-foot pedestal. You probably know that. So
That was kind of the first thought too. That's why I mentioned the artwork versus the base. The first thought was to get that base to where it was up at least to the level of the railroad tracks. That way everything's of that.
and there's some pretty large trees kind of coming both that I'm not sure they're in the way or not, but I know some of that's on railroad right away probably, and some of it we like it because it screens the treatment plant as well. So I don't know what to do about it. I'm just saying, I think the trees are also probably impacting.
But currently at this time, there's no trees in the road right away that would block this area. And we've got cut back from the fence.
I'm thinking more as you drive up to it and you're looking off in the distance and you see it. Cause I still kind of relate it to like the Keeper of the Plains. When you drive McLean, you have all these different places along that boulevard. You get to see the art, not just like right there. You're seeing it as you drive McLean. Just, no expiration places in the way as well, but you see it at different locations on there. So my point is, you don't want people to just see it right for like a second when they go 50 miles an hour past it.
Can you talk a little bit about location? Was this intentional at this corner because of its relationship to the exit drive from the zoo, or is there any other
So,
reasoning behind that?
well, don't want to get too long-winded on history, but the fence that was mentioned with the first idea was to extend something like that. But then there became concerns about maintenance because of the condition of the existing fence. And so we looked at maybe some other type of art element along that same corridor, but we ran into some railroad right-of-way issues. And so looking for alternatives, something visible down at that intersection, down at that point, something that was more aesthetically pleasing as you were driving that area than just the plant. That's kind of how this particular area, and because it happens to be in an area where there's no construction going on, we can work with our design build team to have that access to that area soon.
My next question is, was there any thought by the artist, art consultant, or anyone out, the stakeholders, I guess, on the location being maybe along the tanks at all? And the reason I'm asking this question is the thought of having backdrop to this piece versus it standing, completely exposed. I'm not saying which one's right or wrong. I'm just curious about the conversations.
So the issue from a technical perspective is basically once you get past these generators in this electrical area, all the way through to the north side of these clarifiers, that corridor is completely filled. I mean, I could say her name, everything that's in there, but it's completely.
Could you, were there any other comments from the steering committee? Just like in more detail, why they reiterated the want to put it at location?
Generally speaking, no. The main one I got was they wanted something visible at that intersection.
All right.
That was really the main comment I got.
And then on that, if I can offer from the steering
Yeah, I
committee,
The gorilla.
putting it near the other two would just create a big clump of art necessarily. Would be competing for view. We went back and forth with the steering committee on locations before we even went out to bid. Quite a bit and quite in depth because of where the project is in construction versus where our opportunity is to put in art. So we identified, these are the three opportunities that we really have with the funding that we've available. We looked at, can we put murals on the tanks themselves? There were in-depth discussions. Sorry, Bill,
No,
that he had
you're fine.
created and helped navigate. And these were the three best opportunities with what we had at the time.
Sounds like this is sort of a subjective discussion. It's where it's just opinion. So I understand the steering committee worked hard on this and fine with that. The ones that have looked at it a long time.
Not sure design council didn't drive getting something down in this area. Also in early conversations, we really pushed hard to get something on the tanks or to get something on the end. Was worried about not only zoo, but 235. So we are part of the reason for something being focused on down.
Yeah, I recall talking about that intersection specifically and that being an opportunity to have something as you drive up to it. I mean, just looking at Google Maps, if you're out on the highway, there is quite a bit of visibility to that location, so you will experience it. If it's tall enough, you will experience it from the highway as well. Traffic both ways. I don't know. There's different ways to experience this piece beyond just intersection.
And just the bike path, it is near it as well.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, the other side, okay.
There's currently a bike path that is integrated with the bridge
Right.
and road track and it crosses.
But the one you're adding will just be down at the far end.
Yeah,
Okay.
this here, you got Zoo Boulevard, you got the railroad tracks, our security fence, and then this.
Would you look at offside of that property, like even on the south side? I know that interferes with the zoo and what they got going on, but I mean,
Can't say we specifically looked at off-site, no. I think
So my question for
I'm trying to think that one through if there'd be any funding.
Bill, I remember. You looking for final approval today? Are you planning on bringing the other two pieces back with detail?
Yes, we plan to bring back, well, we're gonna bring back all three together, but yes, we'll bring back the other two when we get a little further thematically. So yeah, it's not necessarily a final approval, more or less an update. And if there's any feeling that we went down a wrong direction or something that we need to adjust.
So we gave him concept approval on the other two last time, sent him back, asked him to look at location. And you down that path, or we can improve the location and height or something. Want to put this thing together.
Seems like there's an opportunity for that base to be much taller. Seems like an easier solution. What about that?
I mean, as budget, can we get taller?
We work with Phil to get it all.
The base and the piece.
That part we're still working on. You know, that's where we're getting a little bit more structural engineering, other issues, make sure we have everything covered. But we're at least trying to get the base taller, get it up to our road track height. If we can get the piece taller too, we're trying to get that.
On your lighting, is that just spotlight, basically from below? Or how are you?
LED that's in the metal or molded, I'm not sure
Okay,
exactly
so,
how.
so it's actually got a ribbon of LED that kind of goes through. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that's. And that LED is what will change blue,
Yes.
and it's casting across the plane of the steel. I know I'm asking you a lot of detailed questions.
Probably over my head on that one.
Okay. I'll see you next time.
More detail to come. Armando, no stress, but you working towards a motion over there?
I guess so. I mean, you're looking for approval, right?
Approval of the concept plan, yes, with the final details to come back.
I guess, yeah, make a motion to move forward with the concept, considering that the height of the sculpture. Using the pedestal height.
I would second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passage. Perkins. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the CIP subcommittee and the public professional development subcommittee. And I can lean on you to help me on those committees.
Hey, you see if I grab this.
We went up and down this, tried to make sure that we had different individuals on committee, tried to keep uniformity to the CIP committee. The people, but still add to that.
I can take a stab at the professional development.
Yeah,
As a committee member.
all right.
So met with a few of the design council members on this, and the professional development artists subcommittee would be myself, Ann Craybill, who's the new art museum director at WAM, James Wagner with Public Works, Armando from the design council, and Jeff from the design council, with the support of Janet as administrative support. That was our recommendation for that subcommittee.
CIP, this stressed me out. I know I had Phil on the CIP, Greg Allison on the CIP, left Matt Ham on there from his experience with the CIP, left Ella on there with her experience at the artwork CIP, added Steve Bowe since Jeff was moving to the other. All right. Aging memories working. So I'm missing 3 design council members on a subcommittee, and we will work each year or when other opportunities pop up to put those individuals on. So you're welcome this year if you got a break. With that, we're looking for a motion to approve the subcommittee, both subcommittees.
Move for approval.
Motion on the floor. Second.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any as may arise?
Just a couple, and I feel like reporting good news. The first one is the National Endowment of the Arts, Our Town grant that we applied for last fall. We have not received it in full yet, but we are, I believe, a finalist for $75,000. We applied for $100,000. $75,000 would be for the project with Harvest Arts to create a public artist toolkit in partnership with Harvest Arts Exploration Gallery Place, an expansion of the Chain Link Gallery Place on Douglas. They're doing some design work and activation of these kind of outdoor playground area. To kind of use it as an artistic incubator playground right now, they work towards a massive development project down the roads, which you may or may not have heard. So the NEA has asked for some supplemental information, mostly just a revised budget, but we're earmarked for $75,000, which check is not cleared. Please keep your fingers crossed, but we're pretty confident in that one. And then the Bloomberg Challenge grant, which we've applied for $1 million for that public art support. We were also asked for additional information for that grant. They didn't give us any sort of inkling that we would receive funding, but it's always a good sign when they ask for more information. They could have just said no. So as soon as we hear more information about that one, we'll let the committee know. But we're excited for both of those opportunities. And then we have also identified some funding internally within the Cultural Arts Administration budget to move forward with the Public Artist Professional Development Program as well. So the work that the subcommittee is going to be doing in this area, we do have a couple of nickels to rub together to make this program possible. So we're still finalizing what all that could look like, but with the guidance of the subcommittee, we're excited to get that work off the ground. And then I'll pass on the other two items to Jana, because she's been working very hard behind the scenes on a couple contracts as to public art.
So in the past couple of weeks, we've formalized all of the paperwork necessary to move forward with the Public Art Archive collection management system. So we will now be able to have a fully functioning database in order to manage all aspects of the collection, acquisition, excuse me, conservation, digital assets, etc. So it will all be stored in one place. And we have also contracted with CAFE, which is also a service of West Staff, same as the PAA CMS, to have an account with the city for all sub-consultants to utilize for public calls for entries for our CIPs with our funding when doing a search for our consultants and for our artists. So we're excited about that.
For that latter one, it's really just going to set a standard. So anytime the city is going to have a call for public artists or call for art consultants, it will go through the CAFE platform, which is a national standard platform. So by us housing the license, the contractor will then just use our license to issue the call to artist. So anytime an artist wants to apply for a project, they know that they can do that through the CAFE platform, just so that we have that standard listing.
I have a quick update on Big Red. I know that we had advised that we were looking at March. It is May 1st, but I do believe delivery will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks, at least by the end of May. So, sorry about that.
That does remind me of one other update. The Waltner donation to the Advanced Learning Library, that mobile that Design Council approved, will hit City Council next week for final.
Very good. Great work. All right, so that will I make a motion to adjourn. Rolling with that. Recorded. Yeah, look at that.
Very hard.
I'm going.
I remember you quit.
I just up and quit. Well, I wouldn't quit.
I wouldn't either, just for the record.
Yeah, Last year I retired, so.
You're gonna take a little bit of time and then go back to work.
Did you second
Uh,
Adjournment.
Come on.
At this point, I'm not. I tell people I'm in a cap. I never had one when I got.
I know, I
When I
never
went
have
to
you.
college, I didn't have one.
Yeah, that's kind of, I take it.
So far, stay busy, so
First time it's happened.
stay busy and feel like I'm
Last time it was in the domain.
involved in it.
Actually calling the judge to see if that's what.
This, I debate how long
Yeah, it was irritating too. I was trying not to laugh because I was just
I
thinking,
enjoy knowing this one, right?
if we were.
Well, that's good. So when I did.
That's why I was trying not to
She happy about it.
laugh too much, because we got a whole lot going on, but.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether
We'll
process. I'm just gonna guess.
Yeah.
Say a third of them.
Don't have